This morning, Australia locks down. Drastic new measures announced as hospitals brace for a tsunami of coronavirus cases. Rent relief. The government working to ban evictions from rental properties for the next 6 months as it finalises details of a wage subsidy plan. And deadly plane crash. 8 killed after an emergency medical flight burst into flames in Manila.
Live from our Sydney headquarters, this is 7 News.
Well, good morning. The Prime Minister has announced a series of radical new measures to try to slow the spread of coronavirus. Gatherings have been further restricted to 2 people, while those aged over 70 have been urged to self-isolate. Everyone is being told to stay home except for essential shopping, medical services, exercise and school or work.
Don't gather together in groups. That's the simple way of putting it. Just don't do it. It's not helpful. It actually creates the risk. And when you're going out for shopping, you should be going for just stuff you need and do it and get home.
From today, all outdoor public playgrounds, gyms and skate parks will be closed, while boot camps are restricted to 2 people. Scott Morrison also announced work is underway to ban evictions from rental properties for the next 6 months. Another relief package will be announced by the Prime Minister within days to help hundreds of thousands of Australians losing their jobs. Political reporter Olivia Leeming is in Canberra. Olivia, the cost of this package will be enormous.
Yeah, bigger than anything we've seen. That's, according to the Prime Minister, worth more than the 2 packages already announced. Laid-off workers will receive up to $1,500 a fortnight under what the government's dubbing a JobKeeper allowance, a wage subsidy paid to employers, which is then given directly to their staff. A key element of this 3rd economic support package that is now being finalised will be put to the government's Expenditure Review Committee to be ticked off later today. After yesterday, the Prime Minister announced a $1.1 billion health package, including funding for telehealth consultations with your doctor over the phone or video apps, doubling as well the GP incentive for bulk billing, and a further $74 million for increased mental health services, with the government bracing for rising levels of anxiety and depression from this pandemic. As well, extra funding to support victims of domestic violence through counselling and other support services, while the restrictions on foreign investment in Australia have taken effect overnight after there were at least 2 cases of Chinese-owned companies in Australia buying in bulk precious medical supplies, shipping those back to China. So the Treasurer says these new restrictions are in the national interest and likely to last until this crisis passes.
Thanks, Olivia. New South Wales and Victoria are both expected to be sent into lockdown after the Prime Minister hinted at further restrictions. Both premiers have flagged the possibility of moving ahead of the federal government to slow the spread of COVID-19. New South Wales remains Australia's pandemic epicentre with 1,700 confirmed cases.
And states like New South Wales and Victoria will move further down onto those 2-person rules, is my understanding. You will see some states and territories, depending on the extremity of the situation in their states, moving to other measures before other states and territories. That is completely understandable.
Well, New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian will address the media later this morning. 8 people have been killed after a plane carrying medical supplies crashed in the Philippines. The jet burst into flames while taking off at Manila International Airport around 8:30 p.m. local time. All 8 on board the light aircraft, which was bound for Japan, died at the scene. It's reported the flight had been chartered by the government and was carrying medical supplies to help with the coronavirus crisis. Australians quarantined in a luxury Sydney hotel complain they have no fresh air or sunlight and cannot receive food deliveries. Strict new measures for returning travellers, who are the main source of the virus, came into force over the weekend. Arrivals are now escorted from the airport to self-isolate in a hotel room under lock and key for 14 days. Police are patrolling outside hotels, controlling those who come in and out. Some of those already isolated say they feel like criminals. Well, results from Queensland's election are expected to take days to finalise as technical issues plagued voting. Elections went ahead over the weekend despite the coronavirus pandemic. More than 1 million people opted for postal votes or pre-polling. Well, problems meant votes were not uploaded to the Electoral Commission website in real time. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says it's unclear what went wrong but promised it would be investigated. Well, another 209 people have died in the UK in the past 24 hours after testing positive for COVID-19. It's the second largest day-on-day rise in the number of deaths since the outbreak began. Well, those who died were aged between 39 and 105, and all but 4 patients had underlying health conditions. It brings the UK's death toll to more than 1,200. Well, meanwhile, the death toll in Spain has surged to more than 6,500 as authorities grapple with the nation's overloaded healthcare system. Well, the government says 838 people died from the virus in the past 24 hours. The total number of infections across the country is now close to 79,000, the most in Europe after Italy. In Italy, more than 10,700 people have died from COVID-19 after another spike in the number of deaths. The country has said it will extend its lockdown past the April 3rd deadline. Well, the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus in the US has reached more than 124,000. More than 3,000 new cases have been recorded in the past 24 hours. Well, the death toll from COVID-19 has reached 2,188, more than double the figure 2 days ago. Infectious disease experts say the US could experience more than 100,000 deaths and millions of coronavirus infections. A specialised decontamination team is helping businesses, universities and schools stay coronavirus free. They're using cutting-edge tools and chemicals to help keep staff and students safe.
Office cleaning in the time of coronavirus. This building is safe. The team is demonstrating to 7 News what's required to prevent and get rid of COVID-19. Restorex workers have to make sure every centimetre of their skin is covered before they can make a start. It's dangerous work, but also essential as more companies become caught up in the crisis.
The inquiry levels at the moment have been overwhelming.
This team was called in after a staff member at a Victorian university returned a positive test. They use hospital-grade disinfectant and work with occupational hygienists on every project. Each stage is also inspected and verified by a third-party hygienist.
The chemicals, essentially what we're using, are cutting edge, and they're right at the forefront of, a COVID-19 response.
It can take up to 2 days for these technicians to do a thorough 3-stage deep hygiene clean as they respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So far, they've been to schools, universities and businesses.
Once we've been in and applied our 3-stage process, the business or the dwelling is able to be inhibited straight after.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Hospitals across the country are bracing for what's being described as a tsunami of coronavirus cases. Well, one of Sydney's busiest hospitals, St Vincent's, plans to move critically ill patients who don't have COVID-19 to a nearby private hospital to free up space. Well, the hospital also plans to dedicate its intensive care units to coronavirus patients. Well, nurses with previous ICU experience are now undergoing rapid retraining to make up for the staffing shortfalls. All private health funds have agreed to postpone the next round of premium increases for at least 6 months. The latest price hike was due to come into effect from April the 1st, but has been put on hold due to COVID-19. Health funds will also provide financial relief for those who've lost their jobs or contracted the virus. Well, students studying the HSC in New South Wales have been ensured they can apply for special consideration and have been encouraged to just do their best as they navigate the brave new world of education. Well, families across the state are facing real challenges as students of all ages and their parents adjust to online learning.
Home learning could slip into home lounging.
Time for school.
But not on Karen's watch. She's an experienced teacher and knows the key to keeping her kids on track.
Routine is very important, I believe, but there has to be balance as well.
Parents are being advised to keep within school hours, including recess and lunch breaks. Any curriculum questions, contact the school. Make time for kids to stretch their legs outdoors while maintaining social distancing rules.
The message to parents is we don't expect you to become teachers overnight.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long week.
And with learning resources now all online, thousands of computers and Wi-Fi modems will be rolled out to disadvantaged students. Catholic schools are also slashing tuition fees for those facing hardship. For students in Year 12, there is real anxiety. All this coronavirus disruption could have a serious impact, not just on their HSC, but on their future path into tertiary studies.
They just need to do their best.
Special consideration will be given. And for our health workers who can't stay home, some teachers are offering to step in through a new online platform.
If we signed up to be a teacher, we signed up to give back and give a lot of our time.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Residents in a Melbourne apartment block have found a way to stay connected. Despite the new social distancing rules, they played music and enjoyed barbecues and drinks away from each other on their balconies. The party went for 4.5 hours. Well, coming up on 7 Early News, a check of finance, plus monster tornado, the terrifying twister which flattened towns in the US. And getting back to normal, coronavirus ground zero starts to look like its old self. That's next. Well, subway and long-distance train services have reopened in Wuhan after 2 months of lockdown. Well, the Chinese city where the coronavirus pandemic began has had its risk evaluation reduced from high to medium. Well, passengers had their health codes or body temperatures checked before they were allowed to enter subway stations. While on the trains heading to Wuhan, passengers were asked to sit with empty seats on either side of them. Restrictions on residents leaving Wuhan won't be lifted until April 8. A prison riot has broken out at a jail in Thailand, sparked by rumours of a coronavirus outbreak in the facility. Well, large plumes of smoke could be seen rising from the prison after inmates set fire to the canteen. Well, dozens of prisoners broke furniture and smashed windows during the riot, and several escaped. Already fighting a rising coronavirus toll, the US state of Arkansas is now a natural disaster zone. A monster tornado ripped through the city of Jonesboro, shredding buildings, but so far no lives have been lost.
An enemy Americans can see.
Wow, this is a violent tornado, guys.
A churning monster hitting hard and fast. It formed without warning, tearing through the city of Jonesboro, 200 kilometres northeast of Little Rock, like it was made of paper. A perfect storm for already stretched emergency crews.
This is all hands on deck. You're in the city of Jonesboro, and you are law enforcement, you are emergency services, you are working right now. This damage is terrifying.
Moving so fast for one local weatherman, his boss crashed in, telling families to take cover.
Intentionally run right along the highway. So if you live in Brooklyn, if you live
in...
Yes, sir.
Zach, Brooklyn is going to take a direct hit from this. You have seconds. Get in your safe spot. Don't try to look at it. Get as many walls in between you and the outside. Cover the heads of all the kids.
There's reports of multiple injuries, damage widespread.
This was a cleaner's. Completely gone.
Rescue crews in the rubble hoping there's nothing more to find than broken homes. In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Checking finance now, the Dow Jones closed down 911 points. The Nasdaq lost 295. In London, the FT 100 fell 305 and Germany's DAX lost 368. On the commodities market, gold is trading at $1,654 an ounce. Oil is $21 a barrel. The Aussie dollar is buying just over 61 US cents, 66 Japanese yen and $1.02 New Zealand. Well, for our hero doctors and nurses on the front line of this fight, extra long days and nights have become the norm. Now, a new initiative is trying to make their job a little easier while supporting local businesses one coffee at a time.
They're working tirelessly, selflessly helping others. And one thing that helps them through the long days and even longer nights.
So guys, I just got our 3 a.m. coffees.
Thanks to the Buy Them a Coffee Instagram. Alongside a number of local cafes and coffee vans, they provide a warm cuppa to nurses and doctors day and night at hospitals across Sydney, Wollongong and Melbourne.
Depending on the size of the order, I can walk it down in under 5 minutes. If it's a large one, we'll take the car.
They're aiming to service the rest of the country in coming weeks. It's funded by donations via GoFundMe, the money given directly to cafes so our healthcare workers don't pay a cent.
And tonight they were free because someone has sent up a FundMe page so that people can donate to healthcare workers to help support us.
This initiative isn't just supporting the nurses and doctors working on the front line of the coronavirus crisis, but also small local cafes, many of which are now fighting to keep their doors open.
We've seen definitely a dip in sales. We've definitely appreciated the bump. I guess it helps us and it helps them.
A second social initiative, Keep Your Cafe, is also aiming to help these small businesses survive, encouraging people to spend if they can, to ensure they remain open in the long run.
Get a gift card for the future. That will help us to go on for now, to pay the wages, to pay the rent.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
And around the world, we're seeing some very sweet tributes from frontline medical staff. A whole street waited outside and applauded UK paramedic Taylor Porter as she left for her night shift.
Oh, look. Oh, Taylor, look, right here. Oh, dear.
Her sister says it was just the boost she needed. Well, next on 7 Early News, the NRL faces its most important day in decades as the pay deal for players and clubs is set to be announced. And golf's biggest names send an important message to the world during the coronavirus pandemic. Well, former coach Rodney Eade says players will have to become more independent in the new AFL world. With the league's suspension set to drastically reduce coach and staff numbers, the former Swans, Dogs and Suns coach believes the game could benefit from the cull.
I think sometimes that people were probably trying to justify their existence to finding some work done. We tended, as I said before, coach players to an inch of their life.
In his first face-to-face interview in 10 years, AFL great Ben Cousins has opened up on his rampant drug troubles and run-ins with the law in a new documentary on 7. Well, today is D-Day for the NRL when players and clubs find out just how much money they have left. ARLSC Chairman Peter V'landys will present his rescue package to the commissioners, then must sell it to the clubs and players. The deal includes $19.2 million to pay the players for the rest of the year if there are no more games, effectively an 80% pay cut.
Look at this as an opportunity. We don't know what the future holds, but your character at the end of this is what will stand true.
NRL headquarters will shut down after the announcement to save costs, with CEO Todd Greenberg going on unpaid leave. Well, Steve Smith's leadership ban is officially over. His 2-year captaincy suspension stemming from the ball tampering saga expired yesterday. Well, David Warner's leadership ban extends for his entire career. And Smith says he expects the Indian Premier League to be cancelled, which will cost him $2.5 million. Our Olympic and Paralympic athletes are embracing the challenge of life in lockdown after the Tokyo Games were postponed to next year. And they've united with a message for all Australians: stay home and fight through this together.
It's a sporting event at the end of the day, and people's health comes first. 2020 unfortunately is going to be a bit of a write-off, but that doesn't mean that the training will stop.
The Olympics were set to start on July 24 with the Paralympics on August 25. Well, some of golf's biggest names have urged everyone to listen to the real heroes during the coronavirus pandemic, medical professionals.
This is a little message for those of you who haven't realised it yet. I am not your hero.
Yo no soy tu héroe.
I am not your hero.
The golfers want people to listen to the medical advice and stay at home when they can. Well, next on 7 Early News, a look at how the weather's shaping up in your part of the country. A California zoo has welcomed its newest inhabitant, a baby giraffe. The youngster, a baby boy, has been given the name Twiga, the Swahili word for giraffe, but he's no tiny tot. Twiga stands 1.8 metres tall and weighs 56 kilos. He's the 5th giraffe calf born at the zoo. Well, taking a look at the weather around the country, trough will trigger showers and storms in southwest Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, while a high clears South Australia. In WA will cause a few showers and storms over inland areas. Easterly winds on the Queensland coast will cause further showers. Around the capitals, partly cloudy in Brisbane and 29. Showers in Sydney and Canberra, becoming a dry in Melbourne and 21 degrees. Partly cloudy in Hobart, Adelaide and Perth. Mostly sunny in Darwin with a top of 29 degrees. And that's 7 early news for Monday the 30th of March. I'm Shaun White. Now it's time for Sunrise with Koshi and Nat.
Breaking now, Australia locks down, tightening